Mike Coppinger, Joe Makovsky of DAZN, tells The Athletic the days of inflated purses are over at DAZN, and that they had to pay a market entry premium. Rob, thoughts?
Yes. I will when the sad music. I don't know why it's sad music. I think this was. I mean, Eddie's been out there saying it just recently. For a little while now, talking about who they're going to look at, who they're going to keep, who they got on to start with. People start saying, "Oh, is it Tevin Farmer? Maybe not going to re-up." Jesse Vargas obviously was getting some big money to start with. He's still there, but is he someone that's really bringing in, the views and the subs and things like that? So it's like DAZN are now trying to get, they went crazy, and I think they had to start, they had to come in and make a splash. I don't think picking up the odd fighter here and there was going to really do much. So I think they had to come in, swing in as, kind of thing, and throwing that money out there and attracting what they could at the time. But yeah, no, it seems a little strange to put it out there, but I still think if they're still going to be talking to people, if it's still a big name, there'll be the money will still be there for like a big name. But I think like the days of Jesse Vargas really claim, although Eddie did mention the guys that came from the start, they like almost like loyalty. They took that, what was seemingly like a risk. So they're sort of rewarded for it. But I don't know. I think there's going to be a bit of trying to get things into line now and really starting to, they've got what they've got. Obviously they've got Canelo. So the likes of like a Charlo or something, if they want the big fight, they've got to come and fight him. So they've got like the A side, and I think they're trying to build some of the other purchases into A sides, but I don't know. But I think this was coming. I think they can't just be out here throwing $100 million contracts at everyone and paying massive amounts. So I don't know. I just felt this was coming, and like I say, Eddie had kind of alluded to this was maybe going to be starting up soon. So a year in virtually, it's like, right, let's tighten the purse strings a little bit, let's try and calm this market down again a little bit. Because I mean, they kind of came in and fucked it up. The market went crazy. They started throwing this money around, and then every other fighter's like, well, they're getting that over there. Mm-hmm. You give me that here, or I can go over there and get it. So it did cause a bit of a stir, I guess, in the boxing market, and I think it needs to just chill a little bit.
Well, here's my thoughts on this. First off, this economic bubble we've had with inflated purses was a narrative for a while now. It was a narrative back when PBC started, though I don't think it truly took off in the way until DAZN entered the space. And like Rob said accurately, they threw out an exorbitant amount of cash all over the place at whoever was taking it because they're trying to break into the scene. And I think, Rob, you made a really good, accurate timeline of it's a year now and they have to sort of tighten the purse strings. They've stated numerous times. You're absolutely accurate on all of that. I will also add that, how do I phrase this? I think this bubble, this financial bubble we are seeing at this point, and it's about to burst, in my opinion. I think it's going to be interesting to see how fighters react to that. Because, first off, you had a year now of purses being inflated to an insane amount. Like, let's just be honest about it. Like, if you go back and, let's say, look at Mayweather purses, right? For his run of like 2005, 6 to 2014, right? His pay-per-view run. Look at what the B-sides were making in those mega fights. They're only making 2, 3, 4 million with the pay-per-view bonus on top of it, right? So, or even Canelo fights not too long ago, like Canelo Triple G fights. Like, look at the pay structure for those in terms of guarantees versus what they would probably get on the back end, right? It was like the entire model was drastically different, and I think it allowed for an elasticity in the market where if, let's say, a card bombed, you didn't the networks or promoters didn't overpay guarantees so much, and therefore hurt the bottom lines, right? I think we're seeing that now. I think we're seeing the fact that this elasticity in the market in terms of how events can do and how some events can bomb and some can't is changing, because when you have, let's say, the third fighter from the top, like for the DAZN card, for example, right, like Jesse Vargas making $1.3 million, when he's the third fight from the top, you're talking about a overhead sort of cost for that event, just in terms of fighter purses, that the market just a year ago never had. And this rapid transition was one no one really thought about. No one thought it through. DAZN was just thinking, we got to make a splash in the market. We're going to throw a ton of money out without really thinking about the consequences of the long-term market of boxing. And fighters that took those deals, like even a Fury for ESPN, right? Like the Versus, right? The guys that had DAZN offers, but then went to other networks to get other deals, a la Deontay Wilder. We're seeing the negative effects of those deals, in my opinion. We're seeing how they aren't really able to afford other things in other ways in terms of quality, whether it be card structure, card depth, opponents. It is apparent now. And I don't know how you really address this other than the market bursting in a way and Showtime boxing no longer existing. DAZN drastically restructuring what they consider vital to their company in the U.S. Their numbers came out for their apps, for their app revenue, right? Which wasn't a lot. I think it was like 9 point something million in the U.S. purely for app revenue, though. That doesn't include, like, if I go to DAZN on my desktop and subscribe, that's not counted in the revenue. So, beside that point, they've only made around, let's say, $10 million. Let's be generous there. Around $10 million. And was it the first quarter or first year?
First half.
First half of the year of 2019.
I think it was 10 from the US, 9 point something from the US. Japan was like 7. Germany was
let's just only talk about the US numbers right now. It's just because I don't remember all the other ones. But the US was the most, surprisingly, in terms of app revenue. I was actually shocked by that. And it was $10 million. So your entire revenue just from your app, that doesn't include anything else. I understand that, but your intake from a pure revenue, gross revenue standpoint, is only around $10 million from your app, and you're paying just guys like Triple G $15 million a pop to fight, and that's one time. You know, I don't know how DAZN is thinking long term. I really wanted to interview Joe Makovsky. I wasn't able to get him. He was all over the place yesterday because this news came out right before the press conference. So I wanted to get him. I wanted to understand this a little better, but unfortunately I didn't. Hopefully in the coming weeks or so with other press events, I will see him. I'll get a chance to talk about it. But long term, all networks now, how are they thinking in terms of structuring their budgets? Because it's clear DAZN is in a concept blowing theirs on boxing related content that is way over market value. They're obviously adjusting that right now and trying to fix that. Showtime, I think we've all speculated for a long time, they blew their budget with the Wilder Brazil fight. How are they going to accommodate going forward with that? Again, this bubble in the market is evident, it's apparent, and it is seemingly bursting before our eyes. Just pay attention to it. And then on top of that, pay attention to how fighters move accordingly. Because when all of a sudden they're not getting the same purses they were just a year ago, I am curious to see the rifts and tensions that creates between networks and fighters, promoters and fightworks. Even if it's, like, again, not on any sort of malicious intent, it's just the market changing, right? But fighters will react emotionally when all of a sudden their checks go from $2, $3, $4, $5, $8 million $15 million guaranteed to, hey, you're back to $1 million maybe. You're back to 800,000. You're back to 500,000 with some back end money. Fighters are going to change their opinions about some people in the industry quickly, and DAZN is going to have to adjust fast to that, in my opinion. Not just adjusting pure fighter purses, because that's like putting a Band-Aid on a dam breaking. Like that's not. I don't think that's going to really change the dominoes falling at this point.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to watch develop. It's like you say, this has a knock-on effect, like you say, across the whole market. It's not just about the zone, tightening the strings and sort of getting sort of things in order and getting into a more structured sort of
budget.
Business. Yeah, and how they're going to go about sort of things going forward. But this affects everybody else. They're all in the same market, so I don't know. DAZN have come in and kind of created the market, and now they're going to potentially like bring it back down again. I don't know, just with their decision to not throw out this big money. Like I say, I think if the right person comes along, that big money's still going to be there. Just as far, if it's something that could be a subscriber driver, because let's be honest, that's pretty much all that DAZN are after is subscribers. Not necessarily. I don't think it matters how many people necessarily watch a Canelo fight at the time. Whether they watch it the day later.
At the time, no, but it may depend for Canelo's purse. Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe, but I just mean as long as people are subscribing and watching it in their opinion, whenever it doesn't, it's a subscription based product that they want people to subscribe. So if the right person's out there, I think they'll still, pay them handsomely. But I think like that things have just got to settle down. And like I say, Eddie's been saying the market at some point will settle down again, but at the moment the market's gone crazy, but it's going to have to calm back down at some point. And like I say, he kept saying there's these pound for pound fighters that are interested in making the move, but we've got to look at what we've got. I've got to have dates for these people. I've only got so many dates. So obviously Tevin Farmer's looking to maybe re-up with DAZN. There's all different people that came on early. They've got to see, do we want to keep these? Do they do numbers? Do they do view? And really take a look at the analytics that they've got and make some judgments.
Views matter. I know you tried to say views don't matter at the first part of that statement, but views do matter. Views 100% do matter.
Yeah. As far as like judging,
like
money goes,
Netflix cancels shows purely due to viewership. We don't know that viewership because that's all internal metrics, right? But they 100% do that. They just canceled like 12 shows or something like that, or 12 different.
I guess what I meant as far as revenue-wise, they're thinking we need subscribers. We need as many people to subscribe.
But how you gauge who is going to get you subscribers is based off of who gets you more views.
Yeah.
Fair enough. MC Treasure in the chat. Yeah, it was MC Treasure saying DAZN's aggressive model has actually worked strategically. The competitors have been forced to pay more, and some have had to check out of the game as they can't compete. I don't really agree with that point, to be honest. I think it has worked to the effect that they've gotten some names. They've gotten some of the market share, so to speak, in the sporting landscape in the U.S., but a very small imprint of it. If you look at the grand scheme of U.S. sports, they have a very small imprint on it. If you're looking at boxing, I would say they also have a relatively, not small imprint, but they don't have a majority imprint, clearly, I would say. Especially if you're, again, talking about the U.S., I would say Fox and PBC are still going strong. ESPN, while they've had a struggling year in terms of numbers, they are still putting out a lot of content. I don't think DAZN is really able to poach any of the ESPN names except for Jesse Vargas. And so again, strategically, if you're just thinking, they made the competitors pay more, I don't know if that really is so successful, because again, long term, that's creating a market bubble, and that's going to have drastic negative effects long term. And they had some competitors check out the game. They've maybe had one, and that's still a maybe. God knows how Showtime adjusts. God knows if Showtime, if they go to MMA, if that doesn't bother them. So, and also MMA is still part of the market that DAZN is trying to attract as well with Bellator. So it's impossible to say right now that DAZN has strategically been successful or won in what they've set out to do. It's still far too early to say that. They've definitely done a lot of good things. I've stated that in the past. The amount of international boxing we see now on US on official streams or telecasts is amazing. That's in large part due to things like DAZN. Fighters getting paid more is always a plus, even if it is just a short-term thing. Okay? I will give them at least that small credit, even though I do think it has long-term negative effects on the market. So until...
What a time to be a fighter. What a time to be a fighter.
Until they achieve the goals they set out to be, which was the Netflix of sports in the U.S., then no.
And to eradicate pay-per-view is dead. Tell that to the PBC fans.
So it's impossible to say they have been strategically successful yet. Impossible. They have done some things well, some things not well. One thing they have done well, seemingly, and we'll address it right now and sort of try to move on as fast as possible because we've been talking for a while. We have callers.